Welcome to Book Huddle. I have an exciting guest today. So, my family is just so into history. I'm so excited to have Matthew Landis on today. Matthew, I'm going to give you a second to just introduce yourself.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Matt Landis. I'm a full-time middle school teacher. I teach eighth and ninth grade social studies. Been doing that for 17 years, which is terrifying. My student taught actually where I teach now, and there's a job open, and I swiped it, and I have
Nice.
never left. In fact, I'm working on a statue in the courtyard for when I pass. That's one of my main goals. I
Yes.
am lobbying the district to bury me under my classroom, but that is a violation of apparently several county rules. But
Strange. We'll
I,
just have
I know, I
some
know.
students start the
I,
project
I
in
want
your
kids
honor.
to like leave, stuff at my statue. I mean, it's the best job in the world,
That's
and
awesome.
I really love it. If talk to any teacher, they love what they do. Um,
Yes.
and I love the classroom. Even now, I love it every day. And there's times there's fatigue, but I love it. So I taught eighth grade for a long time, and then they added ninth grade a couple years ago. So I teach eighth, ninth grade history, which is America 1, 2.
Great.
Taught seventh grade for 1 year, and
Nice.
I have no emotions left. That's why taught for 1 year. And uh, but I just the middle school vibe is just kind of my vibe. It's where my heart's at.
That's awesome.
Every day it's different, funny. I love it. And history. So I went to Penn State, got my history in secondary social studies.
Great.
Then had to get my master's in at Villanova in history as I was teaching.
Right.
And I knew I didn't want to be a professor. I wanted to stay in the classroom, but I knew that I wanted to write. And
Yes.
so I was like, I want to, my mission in the classroom has been to make history not boring. My subject is historically, pun
Yeah.
intended, the boringest. It's the worst, like it's the worst. And you talk to any student, mostly middle school, some elementary,
Right.
and it's just how it's communicated.
Yes.
The old school way that you and I were taught was memorize every battle of the Civil
Absolutely.
War. It's terrible, right?
Yes.
And so our goal is to make it, come alive. Just this past Friday, 3 days ago, we did this live. Every year we do a live surgery activity where I dress up in a civil war surgeon. I covered in fake blood,
Nice.
and we all day. It's a really long, hard day. Every class we do it like 5 times, and I do a mock amputation. We talk through Civil War tech medicine. That's like my mission is to make
Right.
it not boring because can be so boring. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's unfair to history, right? It's not boring. It's hilarious. It's tragic. It's weird. It's funny. It's many things, but boring.
So,
So yeah,
Matt, can I ask you real quick?
yeah.
What do you coach?
So I coach. What do I
Do you
coach? I
coach any
coach base.
sports?
I coach my son's baseball team.
But nothing at your
Uh,
school.
Oh no! So I used to coach
Okay.
tennis at my school, and then I stopped coaching because I started having kids, and I was like,
Yeah.
I
Because
can't
so
coach anymore.
that's when I'll talk to my friends who are administrators, they'll say, you meet a historian in schools, and I immediately say, what do you coach? Because that's what coaches teach, because that's what's easy. So
Yep.
if that's what's easy to teach, they're not going to make a lot of
Right.
effort to make it
Right.
fun
Yep.
in middle school, junior high, high school, because they're just there to coach.
Yep.
And so you aren't just there to coach. You're
Mhm.
there because you love history. And
Yeah.
so those are the teachers that it's going to be different for, right?
Right. It has to be different. It has to be.
Yes, because they
And
actually love history and they want to make
right.
it fun. They're not just there
Right.
for the coaching job.
No, they're not. And I think too, I feel a responsibility of the subject and the weight of history to make it
Right.
interesting and engaging. And so I know I'm not just feeding worksheets, like that's terrible. There has to be mixed instruction. Yes, I tell my kids we have to read, but we're going to do history. We're doing a Civil War field day this Friday. We're going to go outside. We march. We build tents.
Yes.
We
Fun.
invest all this time and extra money and resources way beyond the contractual hour
Right.
because we love it and we love the subject and the kids. And now that's what the job is all about. Like that's what it is. And
Yeah.
kids know that. Like kids know
They can
that their
tell
teachers love
when
it.
you're invested in them and
Yeah,
if you're invested in the subject or not.
absolutely. They can
Yeah.
tell. And it's middle school kids, I love them because they can smell that a mile away. And they're like,
Yes.
you don't care about this.
Yeah.
Or wow,
Do
you're
you even
really into
care
this.
about
It's
me?
weird.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Right. They can tell. And I love that about them. And it does make them kind of snarky sometimes, but I love that too.
Right.
Um,
You
at
just feed off
times.
of it, right? You got
Yeah,
some
I
snark
do. I
yourself.
feed it right back.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. So,
Yeah.
Matthew, you've written 5 books. Is that right? Five?
Yeah, this will be my fifth book. Yep.
This is the fifth book. And so I've read one other, Operation Final
Ooh,
Notice.
the last one, yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Matt, I'm going to only touch briefly on this because we're here to talk about
You
history.
were one of the few people that read it. No, okay.
No. So, okay. So, I don't know how to not sound like our friend Ike here. Okay. So I went into it just not expecting, because I try not to expect much when I go into a book, but it was a 5 star for me, and I did not see
Thank
that coming.
you.
I did
Thank
not see
you.
that coming because I don't know, I'm not into music. I'm just
Yeah.
not a musical person. And on the cover you see here, somebody with a
Mhm.
cello, and I don't know. All I knew was I didn't expect a 5 star. And
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved those characters. I loved you just guys, you got to go out and read it. It's or listen to it. Like
The
at
audiobook is
the
tremendous.
audio was excellent. And at first I was kind of like, this kid's kind of bugging me. But then like you just love that kid so much. And I love his little laugh. No.
Yep.
Yeah, like it just the narrator did a phenomenal job.
They
And it
did. They did a
just
tremendous job.
you can tell in that book and the National Archives with your dialogue that you know middle schoolers, that you know kids this age because you hang out with them and you know how they talk. And I could feel that when you wrote.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes such a big difference is because you're hanging out with them. And so
Mhm.
you're representing them well in these books.
I appreciate it. And honestly, that is the highest praise that like I love people say that, trade reviews are great. That helps sell
Right.
books. When a teacher and a parent who has kids says, okay, wow, this sounds like it was written, this was written by a kid or someone who knows
Right.
kids.
Yes.
That's what matters.
Yes.
Because, and it makes sense. I'm 17 years in the classroom. I live with these kids all
Yeah,
the time and I know their voice. And that's what is so great to channel that right into the
absolutely.
stories. And not every kid is the same. Of course, kids sound different and there's types
Yeah,
of kids. But
absolutely.
when you read a book and you're like, this is not how
Yeah,
kids
that you're like,
talk.
has he even met a 12-year-old? Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I've read those books too. So tell me, you got the National Archive Hunters, you're so into history.
Yep.
This is your first one like about history for middle grade,
So
right?
my first book, I wrote my YA was my first book, League of American
Okay.
Traitors, and that book was kind of like a history thriller, more like playing with history, like
Okay.
definitely a true high school book. I thought
Right.
it was a young adult writer, and
Right.
that's about more like they call it, history myth, where like I had this. What if like George Washington and the founding fathers kept hanging out as this cool secret club, and their descendants
Right.
had this awesome clubs of like we're great, but
Right.
what about the other side, the villains in American history, the traitors, the loyalists, all these people who like were on the wrong side leading down to former Confederates, things like that.
Right. Right.
What if they were actually persecuted by the founders? What if these founding generations carried this beef into the 20th century? And what if they still follow these old school rules of honor and duels of honor? That was the germ. And that's when I went to
Yeah.
Villanova. I was taking, so that's where that book, my first League of American Traitors came from. So this kid Jasper finds out he's the sixth generation of descendant of Benedict Arnold, and he's being hunted by the founding father descendants. So that's
Nice.
kind of where that went. So it's like that
Oh,
mixed with Harry Potter, school,
okay. Well,
that
that's
stuff.
sounding awesome. I'm loving
Yeah,
it.
that no, I mean, I thought it was awesome. What's funny is
Yeah.
readers tell me that's their favorite book, and yet the trade reviews slammed it. I'll never
Oh
forget
no.
no, it's a school library journal. They gave one of my books a gold star 2 books ago, but that book I'll never forget. They read, and I don't mind because bad reviews are part of the gig. You
Right.
gotta.
It just happens.
My first review, trade review, you new author, you get your deal. This is it.
Right.
They just destroyed it. And
Oh,
this guy ruined it. And his last line, they
yeah.
put
Yeah. Like on the
said,
back right
he
there.
literally said, yeah, he literally said, skip it, which
Oh,
which is a little cold-blooded, all
break the
right.
heart right in half.
But at the same time, my editor was like, listen, this is the game. My editor, Alison
Right.
Weiss, who is my editor on this book too, in the
All right.
series,
Cool.
she's amazing. And she was like, listen, it is what it is. My agent, same thing. So it's funny. Everywhere I go, teachers, librarians, readers, that's the first thing they say. Oh my gosh, I love League of American Traders. And then trade reviews,
I
they didn't
wonder if
like
it
it.
needed to be middle grade. I
I
wonder
get
if
right.
that's
Well,
the
that's
problem.
what's interesting. I had an offer on that book, an agent who wanted to bring it down, and I'm like, no.
Okay.
And then I started writing. My agent was like, why don't you write for middle grade? That's what you
Okay.
teach us. No. So I wrote
Yeah.
my first middle grade book, which was Not So Boring Letters of Private Nobody, which is about a seventh grader doing a Civil War project in my town.
Okay.
And they dig up some
So
local
that's another history
archives.
one.
Yeah. So that's like
So was
contemporary.
Operation Final Notice the only not history one?
So, End of the World as I Know It and then Operation Final Notice are part of just basically same school, my school, just
Okay.
separate stories in the same school, some crossover teachers.
Okay.
Started out as, socialized project, and then it went to sort of a grief story, which is
Okay.
basically kind of 3 things I just love to talk about, right?
Right.
Things my kids go through, social studies history, and then Final Notes, which is my kids. some of my lower SES kids who have a
Okay.
lot of money struggles. That a lot of I live in a really cool district where we've got a lot of, there's money, but then there's like pockets where there's like no
Mm.
money.
Okay.
And all these kids, Operation Found Us, like you saw, like, so Ronnie and
Right.
Joe live in this
Those are the
neighborhood.
ones living in
Yep.
those apartments
They live
next
in
to
the
that house.
apartments and they don't have any, there's less money, but they're,
Right.
a lot of joy, right? Which don't, we often forget, money does not equal happiness.
Right. Right.
And so out of that set, I pitched a couple other ideas to Penguin. And then, my amazing editor, Allison, she was working with Pixel and Ink at Holiday House.
Right.
And she sent me this DM in a Twitter and I thought she was kidding. And she said, "Hey, I just saw this thing on Rachel Maddow. I just saw this thing about the National Archives being stolen or something.
Uh-huh.
We should write a book about that." And I was like, ha ha ha, send me a contract. I'll sign it. Sounds great. I thought she was kidding. So 2 weeks later, my agent emails and says, "Hey, Allison was being serious. She's at
Uh-huh.
this new press. She's looking for middle grade stories. Why don't you feel this out?" And I was
Right.
like, huh, because I pitched a history idea like this with twins to Penguin, and no one really wanted it. It didn't
Hmm.
really have coherence.
Okay.
And then Allison sort of got me on the road. And I was like, wait, this could be it. Because I'm a diehard National Treasure fan. And I'm
Yes.
like, can we bring Nick Cage out for the
Right.
third movie? I think we can.
Yes.
Okay. And this book's going to do it. Nick, if you're out there, and he is out there,
Oh
all
yeah.
right, maybe we can make it happen.
You know, and I can almost feel that FBI agent having his personality, that
Yeah, it's right.
dry humor, that little
Absolutely.
because Nick he's so dry. Like, but I
He's
love him.
just
Like he's one of
tremendous.
my favorites. Like,
He's the
but he's so
best.
dry. Yeah.
He's just
Well,
amazing.
and I
So,
love on the
yeah,
back how it says National Treasure meets City Spies, which I've got right here.
yes,
And I love it. I love the
that's the
combination
goal.
of the two. It's awesome. So you set out to do this history. How was it going about trying to make it historically accurate while
Yeah.
still a really fun adventure?
That's the great challenge is how much do you lie? How much do you make up?
Yes.
And so the beauty is there's so much to make it very accurate and guide the story. And so my goal was, can I get as much real history as possible? And yet then what I need to kind of twist.
Right, right.
But the bedrock has to be solid. And of course, Ike, the main character, Ike is the twin, younger
Yes.
by 32 minutes. He is the diehard history nerd, right?
Yes.
I have twins. One of them is younger by 32 minutes. So that's kind of where I stole that.
Yeah.
And so the goal is kids have to be interested, engaged. And
Yeah.
so where it's boring. So what's more interesting, I thought, than someone stealing, right, these national archives. Now the question
Right.
is, who, my editor always asks this, and Allison's amazing. She'd be like, okay, the stakes are what matter. Okay, think about City Spies. It's all the stakes and all these
Yes.
heist thriller books. There have to be stakes. So
Absolutely.
who cares that a history artifact is stolen? The answer is nobody cares unless it ruins your family's 80-year-old business,
Yes.
which is where the story kind of kicks off.
All right.
Yeah.
So I love this, and I'll try to do this without giving any spoilers to your book.
I know it's hard. No spoilers.
But have you read The Mona Lisa
Okay,
Vanishes?
I just saw Jarrett Lerner blurb about this, and he said it was amazing. And I
Yes.
have not read it, but I want to.
So it's an excellent nonfiction narrative for middle grade. And the whole reason the Mona Lisa is famous is because of the heist involving the Mona
Right,
Lisa. And
right.
then, you know, that's one of the reasons that the Louvre's so famous and because of this heist. And so I love that then we have these Carter twins who are trying to bring credit and fame back to this museum that their family's associated with by making it famous because of the heist of
Yes,
these
yes.
artifacts. And I'm like, hey, work for the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
Ike
maybe
and
it'll work for
Iris,
them.
you are onto something here.
Yeah, yeah, that's a brilliant tie over. And it's funny how plots develop, because the question in thrillers is, okay, again, who cares? Who cares it's
Right.
stolen?
Yes.
And then you got to think, well, okay, well, why would someone be stealing the first article to go in this book, again, no spoilers. It's not really of a lot of consequence, you would
Right.
think. And then you realize, wait, it's actually of incredible consequence and how this affects their family. And then all of a sudden, other things start to go missing, very specific, weird things. And again, who cares? So that's kind of where these twins then are going to be thrust into the hunt because their family life is at stake. And the question is always, okay, well, obviously death is the highest stake. We wanted
Yes.
to hold back a little bit A little bit. It's funny. My editors,
There's
Allison
one
said,
intense point that it's like
right,
on the edge. Right. Yeah.
right.
So, which is a great scene in that moment.
It can't be, we're trying to hold things back for, future books, but
Yes.
she texted me once. She's like, you do realize at some point someone is going to try and kill them. I'm like, well, that is like where heists go.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I wanted to make, we wanted to make as high and climactic as possible, but
Yes.
also keep the balance is always in reality. And so my
Right.
favorite places in the
Yes.
country, DC is one of my favorite cities.
Absolutely.
It's just a tremendous city. My wife and I spent a lot of time there. She used to teach in Arlington, so we
Oh,
spent a lot of
nice.
we were engaged, and then she moved up here. We got married, and so
Nice.
I just love that city,
Yes.
and I
I love
wanted to
it.
base it there. And even though I feel like I knew it, I went there last summer because I thought
Nice.
I've got to
Well,
live
I was
this
going
book.
to ask, yeah,
Yeah,
what did you
I
do
want to.
with yourself?
Right, I wanted to feel the book, and so I know the streets because I've been there, but I wanted to know these streets that these kids live. So, I mean, I literally biked around. I drove my two oldest kids to meet my mother-in-law south of the
Nice.
city, dropped them off, got a speeding ticket going into the Capitol. Cameras, FYI, everyone, they're all camera operated down
Oh, yeah.
there. It's brutal.
Yeah.
They
It's,
got me good.
yeah.
And I think I was doing 15 over. I did appeal it. I was rejected. Um, so I booked an appointment, which you have to do with the National Archives now to
Right.
research. I booked an appointment.
Yes.
Um, I brought my bike and I just biked around every spot. I went to the school where the twins go,
What
where
it
I
would be
built their
like
school. Right.
riding a bike.
I
They
sat
rode
on that
bikes, so you
stoop.
bikes.
Yes, I
Yeah.
biked it. I'm using bike lanes. I'm breaking rules. I'm going, okay, how would they go this way? What's the traffic like on this
Yes.
road? It's like a lot faster than I thought. Or hey, wait, in my mind
Oh,
on Google Maps,
really?
it was
Because
this.
all I think of when I think of DC traffic is it just doesn't move. That's what it's like.
Yeah, that is true. When you get to K Street toward Georgetown,
Okay.
people start to fly after the George Washington Circle over there. But
And I'd picture on a bike, it moves.
yeah, traffic is brutal. But I wanted to kind of drink it in. So then I went to the National Archives and I had an appointment. And had to get the visitor pass and do like the
Yes.
PowerPoint, just like the twins, store my stuff in lockers. And I'm like talking to people as I do this, and they're like smirking, kind of like, okay. I'm like, no, this is for research. It's for a book. You're gonna remember I was here. They're like, okay.
Yes.
So I'm going back and forth. I got an appointment, talked to a specialist who helped me find what I wanted. I went into the room, the central reading room. It's gorgeous in there. Got like a table. I
Nice.
was definitely there just as I'm like a little kid, like looking around, like this is great. And like these people are doing serious research, like grad students and actual historians. And I'm like they're just like messing around, like reading these. It was amazing. It was
That's
so
great.
cool to just do that, like they do in the book. And then I just visited all the spots I could, got stuck in a
Awesome.
lot of traffic. And I think that's an important piece. I don't think you have to do that for every book, but I think for the series starter, I wanted to kind of anchor myself
And
in,
really
yeah,
feel what they were feeling and doing,
yeah.
right?
And I just sink my teeth in. And
Yes.
the book moves to Philly and Boston, and those are places I've been to.
Yes.
Philly
So
obviously
I'm
is kind
wearing
of
my
my
Philly
backyard.
shirt right
Outstanding. There it is. Yep.
now.
We were just there last night, my wife and I, for our two night on Friday night for a concert with friends. It's a great city, and the historic district is amazing.
Nice.
We take our fifth graders go to Independence Hall. We used to take eighth grade there. Now we go to Gettysburg. But I've been there so many times. Been to the
Yeah.
Museum of the American Revolution. I got to meet the sixth descendant generation of Alexander Hamilton. He was there for real. I've
Awesome.
got a picture, and he was donating a collection of items, including an item
And
that, no spoilers, is in the book.
okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then you went up to Boston, right?
So
And
I've been in Boston, did the Freedom Trail with my wife, before we had
nice.
kids, toward that city. We did do I'm almost positive went to the Boston Public Library. I
Nice.
did not remember that as much, however. That library is gorgeous. But what was cool is talking to these people. So like I talked to the rare collections,
Nice.
workers. I basically asked this amazing woman. Actually, I left a voicemail, and who calls someone back on a random voicemail from like a
Right,
special
right. That's
collection?
so awesome of her. I
She
love it.
was incredible. I sent her a book. We just sent her a book. She's amazing. She
Nice.
calls me back, leaves a message, and says I'm available. I remember sitting in the parking lot, calling her back, saying, "Thank you so much." And
Yes.
how would I steal something? I basically was like asking her how to heist something. Like, how would someone do
How would
this?
somebody steal this? Could
I'm
that
like
happen?
going to. And she was so kind. She walked me through it. Hey, okay, we don't, let these items in. So I did lie a little bit with to be, and heists were committed, but we talked through some of that. I called the Quincy, the national park where John Adams stuff is, and talked to those workers.
Oh,
I basically
absolutely.
tried to live like my challenge to kids is you could live this hunt. And
Right.
so what a great, tour to do of the Eastern Seaboard
Well,
up and
that's so
down.
fun. Well, and I did the DC part. I really thought about doing the exercise routine, but I didn't really want to wake up.
Yeah, Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, when I walked around the monuments with this group of college kids that we
Yeah.
did last month, I was like, should I do my jumping jacks here? And
Yep. Yep. Workout. Yeah, I got to early
yeah,
in the morning.
yeah, it was good. So yeah, that's just awesome. I love that you're making this engaging and just accessible for kids in such a fun way. So can you tell us how many books are going to be in the series?
Yeah, so we know at least two. The
Okay.
way the publisher made me when they bought it, they made me kind of scan out five ideas.
Okay.
Here's we could build five books. Where's the world go?
Okay.
Which was really fun to do. Someone I'd never done before. This is my first series that I've actually sold as a series. So they
Great.
bought two books, and then the second one's going to come out next May.
Okay.
And so the setup is right. So setting them up for this book one for this original heist, and then
Okay.
solving this, and then the work will continue, or will it, with supporting the FBI's art crime team as other things happen. Because the beauty of crime and criminals, of course, we know is
Right.
people are always up to no good, right?
Yes. There's always going to
Um,
be something.
my favorite, I'm a die-hard Jack Reacher, Lee Child fan, die-hard. And so the setup for those novels, adult novels, is there is bad stuff happening in the world,
Right.
and there are people that are in that book, Jack Reacher, who are going to confront it and
Or
solve
yeah,
it.
they're
And it's
delegates.
often random, or it feels random, but
Right.
it's not random to the people doing the bad stuff.
Right.
And so as we built the world, we were kind of setting up the layers. Like there's the top layer, then there's underneath layer, then there's this, sinister force
Right.
behind the
Right.
scenes who's like that's the kind of the Sherlockian,
Mm.
sort of
Yes.
Magnuson villain behind the scenes.
Nice.
So hopefully more than two. But unfortunately, this is a business, right? And so the publishers are looking at
All
it.
right. So if you liked it, what you've got to do is get people buying it
You got to buy it.
so that we can get more in the series.
Fortunately, it's a business, but yes, at least two,
Yes.
hopefully more. We have so many
Excellent.
ideas, places to go, and places for these characters to really grow and also face, more
That's so
intense
fun.
things. So that's the goal.
Well, I just love it. And like I said, my family's so into history. We've been those places. I mean, we're going to Europe next year. So as I'm reading it, I was like, oh, I hope they go to France. Like,
Yep. Yep.
yes, they need to be there and these other
Yes. In the
places.
sequel,
So
there may
I'm
be a trip to
already like
Europe.
cheering for them.
Yes, they'll be visiting Europe in
Oh,
book
yay.
two.
Okay, good. I was wondering
They
if that would
may
be
they may visit France. I'm just throwing that out there.
just as a possibility
Possibility. Can't
because
guarantee
I'm
it.
going there next year. So just in case.
Yep.
I might see Ike and Iris.
Yes, there'll be spots to go to.
Awesome. Awesome. So fun. All right. Well, Matthew, I love the book. I love to ask all my guests at the end, what is, besides your own brilliant work, what is a book you can recommend to our own audience?
Yeah, so I've been informed by so many, and I was thinking about this question all day today. It's still to this day my favorite middle grade book, is a book by Patrick Ness called A Monster Calls.
Monster
Uh,
Calls.
A Monster Calls. It
Monster
is
Calls.
it is not at all like this book. It is
Okay.
very different, but it's a book that's kind of just a picture of what I think is so beautiful about middle grade.
Okay.
The book
Well,
has its own
I've never
story.
heard of it.
It's tremendous. I'll tell it to
Okay.
readers. So Sabuan Dowd started the book, and she actually contracted cancer. She was unable to finish it. She had very rough ideas.
Okay.
Patrick talks about this in the opening and to the book's ending.
Okay.
She couldn't finish it, and they asked him, "Would you take these ideas and would you finish this book?
Wow.
Would you write this book?" Because again, it
Okay.
was very rough, and
Okay.
and and he took it on, which is a big task to take on. He talks
And
about
that's
it.
awesome. Yeah. Because you're like,
Right?
my brain didn't create this.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I can't imagine. So he took those ideas, obviously made it his own,
Right.
and it is one of the most tremendous books. Essentially, the book said that 12-year-old Connor, I think he's 11, his
Okay.
mom is sick. We don't really know what it is. You sort of figure out what it is.
Okay.
And many books start like that. And my kids love I Survived, but they're always like, oh, another parent who's dead or hit car
Yes.
accident.
It's always
Right.
an orphan or a
Right.
tragedy. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Patrick Ness, really? But
Mhm.
the genius of the book is mom is sick, and there's something that Connor he can't face. There's a truth about her sickness he can't face. And
Okay.
so in the middle of the night, he's visited by this monster in his dreams.
Oh,
And at first you're like, okay, monster's scary. But really the monster,
right.
you realize, is actually there to help him face
Huh.
the scary thing that he can't tell himself. Oh,
I
it's
like it.
absolutely brilliant. and it
So
walks
does
you
this come
through.
back? Like the monster, it's more
So
than
the
one
monster then is not there. Actually, it's funny because Connor's never scared of the monster. He's always actually just like, "What are you doing here?" And
brain.
so mom gets sicker. The monster dreams become, more frequent, and the monster often is with him, with the bullies at school, and then with his, dad who's distant and now, divorced, and then the monster in the dream helps him look over the abyss and look at that thing, that
Wow.
idea that he can't face. I get choked up even talking about it. It is the best book on grief you will ever read.
Wow.
And so
A
I
middle
love it. I
grade
had
book on grief. I'm excited. Okay.
it is.
Can't say
I
anything
had a
else. So.
my book, It's the End of the World as I Know It, is heartily takes notes from that. I had
Okay.
students that have read this book that have had
So it's inspired
lost
your
parents.
writing.
It's
Excellent.
inspired me. And I think that every kid, whether you identify with it or not, is a tremendous picture into the heart. I've never seen a writer like that capture an 11 and 12-year-old's emotional state in
Nice.
a more beautiful way.
I
So A
love it.
Monster Calls, you got to read it.
All right. I'm gonna
Liam
look it
Neeson plays the monster in the movie.
up. Oh,
He
there's a
plays the
movie.
monster voice.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yes. Oh man, it's awesome.
Excellent. Well, that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Matthew. I can't wait to see the next book, but this is coming out May 14th.
May 14th, 2 weeks. We're doing a book
Okay.
launch. I know you guys can't all be there, but it's a live scavenger hunt. It's going to be
Okay.
wild. And I may have the stolen key for Mount Vernon that George Washington was gifted by the Marquis de Lafayette. Now, I have a theory on this.
That's
The
awesome.
key is currently not on display at Mount Vernon, okay? Because they're fixing the housing box for it. I'm going to be honest. I think that's completely made up. I think that it was stolen and it just appeared at my
In
house.
your
So
pocket.
yeah, it's weird. So don't tell anyone about that. But
Don't tell anyone.
yeah, May 14th comes out. Thank you so much for having me. This was
Excellent.
awesome.
Well, I
This is
love
such a
it.
cool thing.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you for sharing history with kids through these fun adventures.
You got it.